Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ and WJEJradio.com. It's a partnership with Washington County Public Schools, the third Thursday each month. This is Will Kaufman from the Public Information Office, joined for this month's show by Robin Handler, our Supervisor of School Counseling with Washington County Public Schools. Welcome back to you.
Hi, Will. Thank you for inviting me this
Good to see you. We have plenty to talk about. I want to talk about how the counseling office, the counseling department, the first marking period's over. This part of the school year continues to move along. Does the counseling year follow? I mean, does the counseling year transition from parts of the school year to the next parts of the school year like a teacher's schedule would?
Will, school counselors are always busy and always have multiple roles to fulfill throughout the school year and really through the summer, even though we are, employed like teachers. But the, school counseling office in elementary, middle school, and high school, especially middle and high school, just never stops. This is the time of year when school counselors are working with students to look at grades. In fact, in the middle school, I observed a lesson the other day on creating academic SMART goals and personal social goals for students in 7th grade. So we continue to respond to student needs in one way or the other.
Is the plate more full than ever before for a school counselor?
I think the plate is overflowing. Counselors are expected to and are passionate about meeting needs of all students, and so that includes classroom lessons on social skills, career exploration, including meeting in small school student success groups to remove barriers that students may come to school with, barriers to learning, and also to respond on a daily basis to issues that arise in children's lives throughout the school year.
Has anything in the last 5 years, let's say, has anything been taken off the plate at all?
No, actually, I think we continue to add to a counselor's plate of what they, are expected to do in terms of moving students to prepare for post-secondary success. And that includes, even with technology, learning new tools. Last year we started Naviance in Washington County, which is a tool to help students apply for college, also access Road Trip Nation, career exploration tools. So it's constant learning for counselors in terms of how to help students and parents make decisions in their best interests moving forward.
With that kind of a schedule then on the day-to-day and on the year-by-year, how do you avoid burnout with the staff? How does everybody stay fresh? How does everybody stay sharp? Mm-hmm. How does everybody stay online for their individual goals, the school goals, the department goals? How do you do that with that kind of packed agenda?
I think that's always the challenging question of how you take care of yourself and practice your own self-compassion, mindfulness, and respond to your own families when you want to be responsive to parents who work during the school day and students who are involved in many activities. So it's a balancing act. And I must say, our school counselors not only have huge caseloads of students, but students come with many different needs, and we try to respond, and I think they do an excellent job to all. And it is hard to balance your work and your personal life and do your job well and keep current in trends and counseling practices, along with other assigned duties like monitoring and making sure students have all their graduation requirements, student service learning hours. For example, now we actually invite 8th graders to earn those hours outside of school. So, we're just adding more to our plate to make sure students are informed and have are good decision makers.
When you started this school year in the summer of preparations prior to the 17-18 school year, what were your goals in for the department, for the individuals involved in it, but just your slice of the education pie in Washington County Public Schools? What was that set of goals going in?
I think my goals and the goals that are aligned with Washington County are to remove barriers to student learning, to make sure that we are working as a collaborative team with our teachers and our administrators, and also to make sure that we are well informed as to our changing technology, all of the occupations and business opportunities out there, so all students are well informed and they can make decisions as to what their future is going to entail. But we're responsible to give timely information. And along with that, I think the goal is to really work with our school to make sure that even though we can't always control the number of students we have, to make sure that we are providing as much direct service to students as possible.
You're listening to Lunchtime Live on WJEJ and WJEJradio.com. This is Will Kaufman with Robin Handler, our supervisor of school counseling for Washington County Public Schools. When you say barriers, what falls in that column? What are the specifics in that column?
Like, for example, we just started this initiative this year in collaboration with our law enforcement partners, the Hagerstown Police Department, the Washington County Sheriff's Office, and emergency medical services. It's called Handle with Care. So if a student either witnesses a traumatic event or is involved directly in a traumatic event, our law enforcement partners then provide us with a Handle with Care message through the email, which is confidential, letting us know that one of our students experienced something that could be traumatic. And then all that's told to the teachers, administrators, counselors is that student, please handle that student with care. And so therefore we can be sensitive to any kind of trauma that they might be experiencing. So that's new this year. And, our goal, along with other people in the school system, is to really be responsive to all students' needs.
We certainly had communication with law enforcement and emergency agencies over the years. What's different about this in comparison to what we've learned from those folks out in the field, out in the community prior to that? It sounds like it's more of an organized partnership with maybe a checklist of steps that occurs in each case.
Well, I think the difference is that in terms of the timing. So, because law enforcement have so many challenges and they need, in their own roles to protect the community, this allows an opportunity within a 24-hour period of time for them just to give us a heads up that a student was either a witness or involved in some kind of event that could traumatize them, or they might come to school and be tired. Maybe they were up all night because something happened at home or with a family member. So it really, just creates a sensitivity in our response to that child, just knowing to handle that student with care. So I think it just adds another level to our collaboration with our law enforcement partners.
When their information reaches us, what happens at our end when we learn about Jimmy at XYZ High School, that over the weekend there was a domestic incident at his house? How do we react to the information?
It can vary in many different. We don't ask questions. We just receive that message, and sometimes it might just be very simply being very aware that the teacher's giving a test that day, and Johnny comes in and appears to have been up that night, and the teacher then, knowing that there was some event, might be then understanding and not have Johnny take that test and be empathic without asking questions. And it just sometimes it could be, if you have a school with 500 students, 1,000, and you're even more, just kind of being aware without being intrusive that something happened in that child's life, and that day. And maybe it could be a few weeks later even where that student connects with the counselor or the teacher. But it's just really about being aware and awareness and sensitive that something happened in that family. Also, because, we may have one student at the high school and another student who goes to the middle school, it really bridges those gaps sometimes and, encourages communication among schools.
I think many of us, and I'll include myself in that group, without a direct tie to a classroom, to a school, to a classroom, really don't feel the full impact of what teachers, counselors, school administrators, support personnel, your office, because you have direct ties to specific situations. It's really hard to imagine when things happen that are outside the purview of the school system and the classroom and the teacher. What exactly the extent of the impact can be when that child finally gets to school. I mean, we can't perform miracles because there are so many things that happen to these children before they get to school and after they leave school at the end of the day. To me, and this is rhetorical, but it seems phenomenal to me some days how an individual student or a group of students, a classroom, a school can move forward considering the context in which that day may have resided, considering, in general terms, the world around us is sometimes a very troubled place. I mean, it seems hard some days to conduct a good, positive, forward-moving academic day considering everything around us.
And I agree, it could be overwhelming. However, I must say that councils work in partnership with pupil personnel workers, dropout prevention specialists, school to family liaisons, our community partners. So when you do all this work, demanding work, you don't do it in a silo by yourself. Also, we have relationships where we can refer students for mental health supports and other type of services that they need in the community. So that, those partnerships are invaluable in providing, ongoing services for students and parents and families. But it's true, one of the responsibilities of that our counselors, some in different schools embrace is monitoring food banks, Micah's backpack. This time of year, making sure our families have food and can celebrate the holidays, and so it's really multidimensional in terms of what those connections we make with families.
So it really isn't about just what's going on in the school building.
No, it's beyond, and I think that's the challenge because we would like to be available 24/7, and that's impossible.
Robin Handler is my guest, our supervisor of school counseling for Washington County Public Schools. This is Will Kaufman. This is Lunchtime Live. We're always here the third Thursday of the month on WJEJ and WJEJradio.com. On another side of what your office does, of the dozens of sides that your office has, our seniors, in some cases our juniors who are pointing toward graduation early, have a lot of things going on. Even in some sense, it's only mid-November, but in some sense, the clock is really ticking for those kids in preparing for graduation and beyond, and you and yours are helping them prepare.
Actually, we just finished college application weeks at all of our high schools where students submitted or applied to colleges, technical schools, military, and also now we're encouraging all seniors to apply for FAFSA, to complete their FAFSA, to qualify for federal grants and loans, work-study programs, to make sure that you research local scholarships, county scholarships, state scholarships, national scholarships, and Naviance. There are, it's true, thousands, millions of dollars that go unaccounted for. So this is the time for seniors to really pay attention. to advertise scholarships, search for scholarships, ask your counselors for help. The FAFSA Frenzy, which is sponsored by the Washington County Education Foundation and Washington County Public Schools, will be December 2nd and 3rd and January 27th at the Valley Mall. For example, Monday night, Boonesboro High School, if you want help with your FAFSA completion, it shouldn't take more than 30 minutes. There'll be school counselor and our Mr. Gossard, who is an expert in financial aid, will be talking to parents and students, and you could come from any high school in Washington County if you'd like help completing your FAFSA. It's important to have your FAFSA completed, especially by March 1st if you're planning to go to a Maryland state school or private school in Maryland.
It's one of those things to knock off the checklist. And if you can do it at this point of the school year, you can point toward all the other things on the checklist as the year unfolds.
Absolutely. And you don't have to wait to do for your tax to complete your taxes. You use your 2016-17 tax returns to complete this year's FAFSA. So we encourage all seniors or graduating juniors to make sure you complete your FAFSA.
I'm astounded each year when graduations occur in each school, and then we have a ballpark total of scholarship awards for all of our graduating students. The number is just humongous, and my guess is, to use your phrase, that there's still an amount of money left on the table that's available that we collectively just haven't pursued. There's plenty of scholarship money, and there are plenty of options in so many different directions. And that's what a school counseling office can provide, that kind of assistance to make kids aware.
And if you, we understand parents work or you don't have access to coming to school, but if you go to the Washington County Public School site, school counseling, all of the counselors and their emails are listed for Washington County. You can call me anytime in the school counseling office to ask for information or ask questions to find out when you can even meet directly with a school counselor.
We have plenty of partnerships with higher education and with business and corporate leaders in the community and in the region. I assume we continue to foster stronger relationships along those lines so we know as a system, as individual students and families, and as a counseling staff, how to point these kids in directions that where the opportunities are, how whether ones that have sort of faded a bit, new ones that are coming online. I mean, the angles to your office are just endless, but that's an important one, so that we're filling the right kind of holes in the community, in the workforce, and in higher education.
Absolutely. As just an example, February 13th, Volvo has invited the middle and high school counselors and central office personnel to come and visit and tour Volvo. And we've been to other community businesses, and we've invited them to come and talk with us about their expectations for employees, what they're looking for. And this, it's a necessity now for us to grow our workforce in Washington County. Last year, the counselors spent the day at PIA, and Sierra Nevada spoke with them. So that's you're right, part of the career exploration and development responsibility that counselors have on their plate as well. We take that very seriously in opening up all opportunities for students.
We also work with all students and try to move all of them forward. How big is the challenge? Describe the challenge for the kids who don't have goals, who don't have initiative. Maybe they have personal, family, or other barriers that are coming into play. How do we move those kids at that end of the scale with not a lot of initiative, if any? How do we move them ahead? How much of a challenge is that?
Well, it's true that education is the foundation for self-improvement and moving them forward. We have, through our Achieve Works partnerships with Navion, students complete self-assessment inventories to discover their talents and their strengths and how to manage the weaknesses that they have, along with tools for resiliency and coping skills. Many of our schools teach students how to practice being mindful and coping mechanisms. So I think it's just like really for students and everyone, how you navigate, the life and the barriers, and also celebrate the successes that we all have before us. And our role is really to create hope for students.
There's I always love the individual stories of kids who come from a family where maybe nobody went to college, maybe no one really succeeded in school, and that student in that sort of generational context has succeeded, has done well in the K to 12 setting, has set himself or herself up to move on to college and be successful there. I wonder what the difference is. What's the difference with kids who come out of that setting with some expectation that they're not going to do as well, just like everybody else in their family or extended family has done? What's the difference in the kids who succeed?
Well, I think it's a difference sometimes in the relationships that they have, and it could be with just one person in their life, which is why we promote mentorship programs, why we work so closely with Hagerstown Community College. They have some very strong programs that connect students to adults. And it really is about a relationship you have with one adult or a group of people in your life that sometimes can make that difference. And sometimes for school counselors, you plant the seed, you don't see the results, but years later you might see a student you had who tells you, and this is for teachers as well, how you really changed their life. It could be one thing that you say to encourage them, and you never know until sometimes years later when you meet someone who tells you the impact that you had on their life.
How would you describe the most talented, the most insightful, whatever the positives would be? How would you describe the best, most effective counselors we have, or that any school system would have? What is it about those people?
There's no magic to the role. I believe that the counselors that we have who are fully committed believe that their job is to work with all students and to be responsive, but also to teach them how to self-advocate for themselves. And so the best counselors that we have really are those counselors who believe that all students can achieve and be successful. And are totally committed and passionate about their craft.
Describe the differences. Many of them are obvious to many of us. Describe the differences between the counseling work that goes on in the elementary schools and then the secondary levels.
There's a definite
Sure.
difference in the roles. In the elementary school, and we actually even have differences in terms of the grade level that they respond to. But the counselors in the elementary schools are able to spend more time delivering classroom lessons in academic, career, and social emotional domains, talking about personal safety, talking about making good choices, bullying prevention strategies, having class meetings, facilitating those. The middle school counselors do a variety of both classroom lessons, assessments such as Strength Explorer, academic and SMART goal lessons, but they also check grades because, middle school is now in transition for high school. And at the high school, really, it's about meeting with students on an ongoing basis to make sure they're on track for graduation and responding on a daily basis to the challenges that just adolescents bring, to the table in their life. All K through 12, and actually now preschool through 12, as we, have more preschool programs in Washington County, all counselors have the same responsibilities in terms of, preparing students for post-secondary success, and especially helping students with transitions during that 5th grade year, 9th grade, and moving them to college or career pathways.
Counselors, just the same as any other folks in education, have ongoing professional development. What form does that take? And I ask that with one specific in mind. What form does that take, including things that happen now at least more pronounced in the world around us, whether it's violence, the prevalence of drugs, for instance. Has professional development changed to sort of help us manage those kinds of community issues and how they may come to bear in school?
I think they don't not only have changed. Counselors are always looking for information about trauma-informed care, how to help. That is something that we talk about, building resiliency, working with a brief solution-based counseling, because we have a limited snapshot in time that we can work with individual students. Also dealing with special populations. Our school counselors monitor and facilitate 504 plans, so they need to be very current on 504 plan accommodations, and that's been a responsibility counselors have assumed over the years. And also, I would say we spend a great deal of time searching on tools to help students who are dealing with serious mental health issues.
Mm-hmm. When you walk out the door at the end of a successful day in your feel for a day at work, what makes a day successful for you? When you walk out the door and if I'm walking with you and I say, "Hey, Robin, how was your day?" It was a great day. What goes into a great day?
A great day for me is when I've had the honor of spending time observing school counselors in their school, working with students, and making a difference. That's a great day for me.
And for a school counselor, for those folks you're working with out in the schools, making direct contact with students and in many cases families, what makes a great day for them? What's an average great day for a school counselor?
I think that's a great question. I think it's a great day when a school counselor can have a plan at the beginning of the day, as a teacher, and actually follow that plan, whether it's being in the classroom, group counseling, responding to students. I think a great day is